And welcome to episode 4 of the Dodgers Collective. My name is Doug McKain. I cover the Dodgers for Dodgers Nation. And as always, I'm joined by Jerry Hairston Jr., Sportsnet LA Dodgers analyst, former Dodger World Series champion, and Fabian Ardaya, who covers the Dodgers for The Athletic. Gentlemen, yesterday, the first Shohei Ohtani start day of the season. It was the 8th anniversary of his pitching debut. It was 101st start. He allowed one hit. It was a 2-out double to Rhys Hoskins in the 4th inning. It was one of only 2 at-bats with runners in scoring position. Ohtani had 3 walks. He hit a batter. He had 6 scoreless innings with 6 strikeouts. Jerry, what stood out with Shohei's first pitching start of the season?
Just how sharp he was last night. I mean, once again, he only made a few starts in spring training. I know he went to the WBC where he did not pitch. Now he did face Japanese hitters in a Sin game, but it always amazes me just how prepared he is when he steps on the baseball field. Now he's not always going to perform, but it's not because of lack of preparation. For him to be on, to have that splitter working, that curveball was outstanding last night, and for him to go through 6 innings scoreless, just amazed just how sharp he was on the mound last night.
And Fabian, I mean, when you look at last night and just the buildup and just getting a couple of spring training starts, I mean, how impressed was that to go 6 scoreless his first time out?
Yeah, it's exactly what the Dodgers maybe were hoping was the best case scenario for him. They didn't really know what the buildup was going to look like for most of the spring. They sort of let him out to the WBC, sort of trusting that he would keep up with the buildup. There's so much that is unpredictable with that. But then he came back and looked great through 2 spring outings. And the fact that he looks this good coming off just 2 spring outings and actual game action, it's impressive. It's a testament to him. And in a lot of ways, like, he looks arguably better than he did last year. Obviously, last year he was coming back off the surgery, building back, not having the full arsenal. But in a lot of ways, he looks like he's continuing to take these steps forward as a pitcher.
Yeah, and after the game, he said that 2022, the workload, the intensity was high. So just kind of having something to reference there in his first full season back with the Dodgers. Really interesting to hear him talk about just them prioritizing Yoshi and Glasnow and Snell and kind of fitting him into the rotation. Does it feel like they're going to, even if he's dominant, even if he's efficient, that they're going to have him on regular rest? Or you think it's going to be kind of what the plan is to kind of manage him and have those guardrails throughout the season?
Yeah, I think they're going to sort of be flexible with it. I think knowing that he has the two-way ability, knowing how much it's important to have him in the lineup, they're going to be really flexible with it. Probably going to be 6 or 7 days off between starts pretty regularly, but they could also have the flexibility to pop in a guy for a start, maybe skip him for a start, or if the situation calls for it, like they need a starter, sort of like what happened in Baltimore last September, where all of a sudden he's out there starting just because he kind of knows his body, knows what he needs to do, but also the Dodgers are going to prioritize, like you mentioned, some of the other guys in the rotation in terms of keeping them on a more regular turn.
Yeah, I mean, he's going to go 6 days between starts, especially with the Thursday off days. And then you got Justin Robles you can use as a swing man. But when you look at just the overall start, you mentioned the curveball, you mentioned kind of the fastball, how there's more life on it. As far as just the pitches, the execution, Jerry, kind of, does this feel like, have you talked about after the game that this could be even a better version of Shohei on the mound?
I think that he's starting to enter his prime from the pitching side. I know he knows exactly what he wants to do on that mound. Obviously got plenty of experience, but I love his windup. I know we featured that last year. I know when he was with the Angels, he was kind of tinkering with his delivery, went to the stretch a lot more often. Now he's got that rhythm and flow and tempo to his delivery to take less pressure off his shoulder and his throwing arm. I just love that he's using his entire body, coming downhill, and it's just a smooth delivery. I love the fact that he's in control and command, and I really believe, being an elite hitter that he is, he's using the knowledge he has as a hitter on the mound even more so, because he's been in the big leagues for quite some time. He can kind of mix and match. I'm going to focus on my breaking ball this year because this team doesn't like to hit the breaking ball this game. Or the next day, this team that I'm facing doesn't really hit the fastball too well. I'm going to use the fastball a lot more often. So I love that he has a variety of pitches, but he's pitching as well. Nomar Garcia-Parra made a great point last night. He's not hunting 100 miles an hour. He's not. He's going, you know what? I'm going to pitch. I'm going to throw 96, 97, mixing that slow curveball, occasionally that split finger. And then when I need to, I can hump up to 99 to 100 miles an hour. So I love the fact that he's pitching, not chasing velocity. And, I said it, in spring training as well. We're going to see the best version of Shohei Ohtani because last year, yes, he pitched extremely well, but he was coming off that surgery. Now he's had a full off season to prepare himself for a full season on the pitching side. He said in spring training as well, he's hunting that Cy Young award. That's not a problem. I love guys chasing awards because when they attain them, guess what? That means they had a great season. That means more than likely the Dodgers had a great season. So I love the fact that he's chasing that Cy Young and he's pushing himself, and hopefully he makes 25 to 27 starts. He was outstanding last night.
No doubt about it. I mean, I think you mentioned the fastball. You mentioned just not forcing the velocity and just letting things come naturally. I mean, you can see that he uses his legs about as good as anyone as a pitcher. He's kind of got that little tilt now with his shoulder where he's able to stay back a little bit longer with those legs. And mechanically, he looks like he's in tune and dialed in better than he's ever been. Fabian, is there anything you saw from him in his first start that makes you believe that this could be an even better version of Shohei Ohtani on the mound that we've ever seen, even in that 2022 season when he had a 2.33 ERA, finished fourth in the Cy Young in the AL?
I think it's the secondaries, like the depth of the secondaries, how many different sort of ways he can go about a different lineup. And I think the splitter is fully back. It wasn't really back for a lot of last season. He clearly was still trying to get a feel back for it. That pitch is clearly back. The depth on it's back, but it's not even his primary secondary. At least it wasn't yesterday. It was the curveball, which is it's almost two different curveballs. Like he's throwing it as hard as 82 miles an hour. He's throwing it as slow as 69 miles an hour. The fact that he can sort of control all of that, use that to change speeds, have two different shapes on the slider, have the sinker he'll mix in a couple times an outing. There's just so many different ways he can get guys out. And for as much as it's a power arsenal, like at one time through the lineup, it could be a power pitcher. One time through the lineup, it could be a finesse pitcher. That just sort of shows how many different layers there are to Shohei Ohtani. I think this version of himself is also a way that he can maybe manage himself better over the course of the season. Obviously, last year we saw he was sort of coming in knowing that he was going to be 1 inning, 2 inning at a time, and sort of letting it rip. Yesterday, you saw he still was able to reach back for 99, but was sitting 96 for a lot of the night, and was able to sort of push and pull on the dials a little bit when it came to the velocity. And I think that's going to help in the long run when he can sort of have just all kinds of different ways to go about things.
Can I add to that point with Fabian? That is an excellent point, Fabian. That's what I think. I don't understand why young pitchers, and I think the velocity is a huge thing, but especially when you get to the big leagues, I always said it's so much more as a hitter difficult to cover and manage when you guys shaping his breaking ball two different ways. Will he throw that breaking ball at 83 miles an hour, or he could throw it at 76 miles an hour, or have two breaks to the slider? Will he throw that hard slider or throw that slow sweeper to go along with 94, 95, and then with two strikes, throw that elevated fastball like 99 to 100 miles an hour to the hitter? It seems like 105. I never understood why young pitchers don't really do that. They're max effort every pitch, max effort every pitch. As a hitter, it's a lot easier to hit. But when you're doing what Shohei Ohtani did last night, it's almost like he has 10 different pitches. He's got 4 or 5, but each pitch that he has, it's at 2 or 3 different velocities. So as a hitter, it's a nightmare to do. So the most important thing, Shohei Ohtani is known that now as a hitter, that's tough to cover. So I'm going to shape my breaking ball a couple different ways. I'm going to throw my splitter a couple different ways, and I'm going to throw my fastball a couple different ways to really cause havoc for the hitter. So the number one thing, he keeps himself healthy because it's not max effort, but also as a pitcher, he's much more effective. Hey, why work harder? I will work smarter. And I really believe, man, after seeing him last night, man, he is poised to have a huge year on the mound.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think what he said to the Japanese media, I was watching the interpreted version. He said, as far as the pitch mix on a given night, it's kind of a fluid thing on what's working. I mean, you saw the curveball was extremely effective when you got Kafis, you got Rokio in the fifth. I mean, very effective pitches. But then who knows? I mean, the slider, I was talking to Jose Mota breaking down some Shohei in the offseason. He feels like the slider is the most important pitch because it goes to righties and lefties, can dart in out of the zone. You can start it in the zone, you can steal some strikes. I mean, he was working on that sinker during warm-up. So it's going to be really interesting to see just kind of how that evolves. Do you see that playing out that way, Fabian, as far as just the fluidity in the mix as the season progresses?
Yeah, I think even within a start, I think you sort of saw like the first time through the order, obviously very fastball heavy, trying to establish the heater, get ahead early, and sort of build everything off that. Second time through, he really ramped up the curveball usage, which you sort of saw there, some of the strikeouts that you mentioned. And the last time through, he was starting to lean more on the splitter, which wasn't really fully there for him last year. Now it's fully back in. And I think just having different looks you can give guys over the course of the game, that's going to be the big thing for him to get through the lineup multiple times. And that's part of what the Dodgers are kind of hoping for. Like, I think he kind of is hoping for. He understands that he's going to have to be really, really efficient if he's going to have to if he's going to be able to log types of innings that he wants to log in order to pursue what he wants to do when it comes to Cy Young and such. Knowing that, especially because he's going to have limited starts, he's going to have to make the most of each of those starts in terms of getting deep into games.
Yeah, we saw that in game 4 of the NLCS when he knew that it was time to go to the splitter. He went to it, and it was extremely effective. Jerry said after the game that he feels more loose, and just pitching overall, he feels more loose this year. And it's pretty self-explanatory, but just, I mean, the benefit of just that feeling early in the season feels like it's a big difference from last season where you're just building up. You have the luxury of building up at the big league level, which not a lot of pitchers have. Just feeling loose, it feels like he's in a great spot.
Look at his delivery. Guys, it's as smooth a delivery as it is. I mean, it is a beautiful delivery. And the main thing, he's not really laboring, with his delivery. It's smooth. He can repeat it. When you have a smooth delivery, it's a lot more easier to repeat, just like a swing. If you have a herky-jerky golf swing or herky-jerky baseball swing, it's going to be hard to repeat. But when you have a nice, smooth swing, you can repeat it over time. So I love the fact that he came into this season understanding exactly what he wanted to do on the pitching side. And like I said, we shouldn't be surprised how sharp he was in his very first outing. But having to be able to repeat that delivery on every single pitch and knowing how to pitch to go along with his immense talent. I said it just a second ago. I think he's going to have a huge year on the pitching side. And I think Max Muncy said it really good last year. He may enjoy pitching more than hitting, which is kind of crazy to me because he hits 450, 500-foot bombs, hits 50 home runs a year. But he loves the fact that he's in control every single pitch. And that's cool. And it shows on the mound because he gets a chance to compete every pitch.
Yeah, and Fabian, Max Muncy said that again after the game to us. I mean, it always kind of blows your mind that is a guy that really feels like he's a pitcher. He hits, but he also hits 50-plus home runs. It's kind of wild to process that. Now, as far as just the plan moving forward, we know he's going to be used as a traditional starter. They want to go 6-7 innings, and the efficiency's there. I mean, he's already where he's at from a build-up standpoint, but he has the luxury of being in a rotation that has some depth. And you have Justin Robleski as that swing option. We saw them keep Robo with Roki just in case things didn't go their way. But how do you see Robleski playing in potentially with Shohei as it kind of moves forward and kind of fill in some starts potentially, Fabian?
Yeah, Dave Roberts said that Robleski's be part of the mix the next time through the rotation, so that means that they're sort of viewing him as a starter. I think some of the off days made it complicated to sort of mix him in as a true sixth starter this first time through, just the fact that they had 2 off days in the first homestand alone. But yeah, I do sort of see a scenario where they don't have to necessarily push Ohtani on the pitching side. I think every 6th or 7th day makes sense reasonably, just in terms of when you can sort of plug him in for a start, just knowing that he's going to be in the lineup every single day. Robleski, I think, is going to be sort of that 6th starter, at least for the first month of the season. I think it's really interesting once the guys like Blake Snell start coming back, and then possibly Gavin Stone further down the line. Then all of a sudden you really have a lot of depth there, not to mention a River Ryan as well. So they'll have options to be able to plug into the rotation, but I do think that they're going to not necessarily be in a position where they have to use Ohtani out of necessity. I think they can sort of use him as a luxury where you get this extra pitcher because of his two-way status. You don't really have to feel like you have to push him. So they're going to sort of be flexible with maybe giving him an extra day here and there, or maybe even skipping a turn altogether at some point during the summer.
But it feels like through April, he's going to be going 6 or 7 days.
Yeah, that's sort of the plan. I think it's sort of keeping him in a regular rotation, keeping him in a regular schedule. I do think the off days are a help in terms of just keeping everyone fresh, whether it be Ohtani, Yamamoto, Sasaki. So all those guys sort of usually have extra rest. I think that's definitely going to help them a lot.
And gentlemen, I never want to get used to what Shohei Ohtani does. And this morning, Sarah Lang's tweet out, Shohei Ohtani currently has the longest active on-base streak in Major League Baseball, 36 games, and the longest active scoreless inning streak in Major League Baseball, 22 2/3 innings pitch. The great Sarah Langs. Jerry, what's your reaction to when you hear a stat like that?
I still can't believe it. I said this a couple times, whether it's on our show, on other shows. What he's doing, remember, Babe Ruth did not do this. We know Babe Ruth was an incredible pitcher, obviously a historic hitter with the bat with the home runs, but he didn't do this at the same time. He made himself into a great hitter, and he abandoned pitching and just focused on hitting. Shohei Ohtani is doing it at the same time in this time period. Is truly remarkable. And to be that ace, because he is an ace pitcher, and to be a guy that you rely upon in your lineup, your leadoff hitter that drops 50 bombs, it is truly something special. And that's why we don't hesitate to say this is the best player that we've seen. I can't recall, I know Barry Bonds had a tremendous career. I think he was the best hitter I've ever seen. But for a guy to do everything, pitch dominant, hit dominant, we've never seen this. And when Sarah tweets out something, it's always great statistics. And that's just goes to show the dominance that Shohei Ohtani has both on the mound and at the plate.
Yeah, and really you can make the case that last night was his best night offensively as well. He goes 1 for 3. He drew 2 walks, had that single on the season. He's 3 for 15, does lead the league with 6 walks. What did you see from him at the plate, and what have you seen from him so far?
Well, at the plate, he hasn't really squared up a whole lot of baseballs. Again, it's only a small sample size. There's only been 5 games. We've seen Shohei Ohtani. We've seen other superstars. They may not have a great week. They get off the slow starts. But, boy, when they catch fire, they catch fire. So, listen, a lot of our guys hasn't really swung the bat well. But I love the fact that we haven't been firing on all cylinders yet. And we're still winning some games. So that's a great sign. These guys are battling, trying to have great at-bats, passing the baton as much as they can. But for Shohei Ohtani, we know he's going to catch fire with the bats. More importantly, I think from the pitching side, he looks great. He looks that he has all his pitches. He's comfortable and he's healthy. We know he's going to catch fire at the plate.
Yeah, and Fabian, I always kind of cringe when you talk about offensive stats through 5 games. It's just like a massive overreaction. And he didn't have his first home run as a Dodger until his 41st plate appearance in 24. We're all waiting for that one. He hit one against the Giants. But Dave Roberts did say they're crowding him a little bit, but he's doing the right things. He's moving the runner across. He's taking his walks. He's not necessarily expanding the zone too much. But what are you seeing from him at the plate?
I think what I'm seeing from him is what I'm seeing from a lot of the offense in general, where outside of, I think it was a couple nights ago where they didn't draw a walk, which is something you rarely see from a Dodger offense. They're putting together solid at bats. They're sort of putting guys on base, whether it be drawing a walk. They're just not doing damage on the pitches that they should. Even Shohei Ohtani said that, I feel like my bat quality's been fine. I just have certain pitches that normally I do damage on that I haven't done, which is a sign that maybe their swing's just a little bit off. I think you sort of see that with the Shohei Ohtani, maybe with Kyle Tucker at times, with Teoscar Hernandez, with Max Muncy until last night. A lot of these guys are maybe just a little bit off with their swing, but the quality of a bat is still there for a lot of these guys. And also you've seen some hard hit balls to the track for a guy like a Freddie Freeman as well. So I do think that it's just a matter of time for this offense. I think at the end of the day, this is such a deep group that as long as the at-bats are still continuing to be at this level where you're drawing walks, you're getting guys on base, you're stressing out the opposing starter, eventually some of that will turn into damage. And I think once the ball starts going over the fence, you'll see a lot more of the higher run totals. I think it's still encouraging that they have been able to sort of put together runs when it came to sort of stringing together innings late in the game yesterday and at different points over the course of the weekend.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's zero doubts the offensive flurry is coming. And if there's ever a reason to go to Dodger game, which there are many, I mean, you saw literally Yoshi and Donald Glover throw out the first pitch. There's always exciting stuff. But when Shohei pitches, what you don't get to see on TV is him not going to the dugout after he pitches the first inning, and he's putting all of his stuff and his batting gloves and his gear and his armor, and then he goes and takes an at-bat. And it's something that never gets lost by me. But they're always going to ask, oh, should Shohei bat leadoff? And, of course, we know why he's going to remain at that leadoff spot, but it doesn't feel like that's something that they're even considering just because that's where he should be really in this lineup. But do you think that they'll tinker at all with the top of that lineup when he pitches?
I don't think, at least not for right now. And I think it's one of those things where you're talking about one at-bat a game, which obviously you notice it. Like, you can, that's the one that you can script is how the game sort of starts at home. But I think it's one at-bat a game, and there's also going to be scenarios where, like, in the middle of the game, that's going to happen anyway. So you could try to avoid that scenario as much as you want, but that scenario is going to happen at times anyways, where, especially I think it happened again in the 5th inning, where he sort of puts up a 0, comes out, thinks that he's done, and then realizes he's leading off the next inning, has a run over, get ready, draw a walk. Then all of a sudden he's on base for the next 3 hitters, gets stranded at first base, and immediately is back to pitching. Like, that is something that's unavoidable if he's going to be doing both those things. But I do think that sometimes it's unavoidable. So I don't think that they need to switch around how they build their lineup at home just for that one specific scenario.
Yeah, we saw the Twins last year, right? I mean, home run the first inning. It does happen. Jerry, just no thought in that, right? Just maybe moving Shohei down the line or changing anything on days when he pitches?
Well, that's where communication comes in. You know, Shohei Ohtani needs to be able to communicate with manager Dave Roberts. And Dave Roberts needs to kind of ask Shohei as the season progresses, hey, how do you feel? Do you feel more comfortable, let's say, hitting third when we're at home? That way it gives you a breath or two. Let's say it's 100 degrees at Dodger Stadium in July. And, hey, how about we hit you third tonight and then have Mookie maybe lead off to start the game? You have those conversations throughout the season. But right now, Shohei prefers leading off. Obviously, he's been successful doing that. And like Fabian said, it's just one at bat. Hopefully it's one at bat. It may happen later in the game, but he's used to doing that. I did love it last night where he was so focused and so keyed in on his pitching and what he was running through, how he just had success that inning. And I forgot, I got to go hit. I got to run. And he's getting hit. So we're getting ready to hit. So he's used to that. Obviously he's had success doing that. He's comfortable leading off. So right now I would leave it as this, but as the season progresses, you could still have those conversations with Show.
Yeah, I love seeing that too. I also love the look on his face when he thought Dave was taking the ball out of his hands in the 6th. I mean, I don't know who tweeted out, but they're like, there needs to be a camera on Shohei just for the entire game because of the facial expressions. I'm definitely here for that if they want to go with that. But speaking of pitchers that had a positive outing, we're going to get to Roki Sasaki. That's coming up next. But first, a word from our friends over at Prize Picks. Got to go to Prize Picks, and no matter what sport you're watching, there's no better way to make the action more exciting than Prize Picks, where it always feels good to be right. Prize Picks is daily fantasy made simple. You just pick more or less on your favorite players' projections and build your lineup in a few taps. Whether it's basketball, football, or anything else you're locked into, it just gives another reason to stay tapped into every single play. And honestly, that's my favorite part. Like, even when you're watching a random game, once you've got a lineup going, now you're locked in. Every possession matters. I've been mixing different sports too. You can throw a couple basketball picks, maybe something from another game, and just ride it all night. Makes everything way more fun. And they've got some really cool features too. You can actually cash out early if your picks are going crazy. You can mix multiple sports in one lineup, and there's a community aspect. So you can always see what other people are playing and even tail the pick. So download the Prize Picks app today and use code HMA to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code HMA to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks, it's good to be right. All right, welcome back to the Dodgers Collective. By the way, speaking of Prize Picks, speaking of making picks, I know, Fabian, we're on the same page. I'm a UCLA guy. You're an Arizona State guy. I don't care who wins as long as it's not Arizona, right? I mean, please, I need Arizona to lose. I cannot have that in my life. It already bothers me. They have a national championship more recently than UCLA. That is my nightmare.
Yeah. I think anyone but U of A for now. As much as I respect Tommy Lloyd, what he sort of built there, I think anyone but U of A.
Here, you got a Final Four pick. We did our WB6. Maybe that'll be a thing. We'll just pick random games for random sports. But who you got?
Well, my nephew's at Arizona State University, so no way U of A. So anybody but U of A.
Yeah,
I'm getting that bumper sticker today, by the way. I didn't know that was a thing. I'm getting that bumper sticker today. No way, UFA, maybe even tattooed. But all right, gentlemen, speaking of positive starts, Roki Sasaki, we talked about it last week. He needed something to build on. And he didn't pitch a complete game, a perfect game, a no-hitter, but it was a major step in the right direction. You saw the implementation of a cutter, which was his second most used pitch. He was stealing some strikes with it, got a couple strikeouts. Fabian, what was your biggest takeaway from Roki's outing?
I think it was a step forward if you're grading him on what the rest of the spring looked like. I think that's the other thing. It wasn't necessarily the sharpest outing. Some of it was the Guardians kind of really chasing outside of the zone, really making things a little bit easier on him. I do think that is a good sign, though, that it was close enough to the zone that the Guardians even thought about swinging. So I think that is the step forward. I think it's a sort of building block to Roki himself, sort of saying like, hey, you just have to be around the zone. Your stuff is good enough to play in that aspect. Not every team is going to be as sort of aggressive as the Guardians were, but at least that is something where you can build some confidence off of this, take this towards the next start. I think the Dodgers are definitely going to take what they got out of him in his first start. I think Roki Sasaki will take that as well. He sort of kind of said after the start, like, hey, I didn't really have a lot of confidence coming into this one, just considering how the spring had gone. So just having that to sort of build off of is maybe a small step from what you're expecting from him long term, but it still is what the Dodgers and Roki himself really needed.
Yeah, and it was interesting to see him so out and open with that. The fact that he mentions, hey, I didn't have a lot of confidence because of the results during spring. And look, it was a season debut, 4+ innings, gave up a run, 4 hits, 2 walks, 4 strikeouts, did have those 9 whips. You mentioned the Guardians kind of helped him out there in that first inning, kind of chasing some stuff. But Jerry, I mean, the talk about his outing was that cutter. What does that do for Roki?
Well, I think just that third pitch, it's huge for him. And we talked about Roki, obviously was not sharp at all in spring training. Now he can start to build some of his confidence back. We know he had immense confidence in the postseason last year. He was dominant. And I've said it so many times, we do not win the World Series without Roki being that closer. But now he's asked to be that starter once again. And in order to start here at the big league level, you better have at least 3 pitches. And I think that cutter is that third pitch to keep the ball off the barrel. I think so vital for him, chasing soft contact. And that way he doesn't have to grind and work so hard. So having that cutter to go along with that 97 to about 100 mile an hour fastball and his devastating forkball, I think that'll play. Now, it was a step in the right direction. Hopefully he can make other steps and realize, you know what, with that cutter, with that movement, I don't have to be perfect. Let him put the ball in play, chase that soft contact, use your defense because we have an elite defense. No free passes. So hopefully his next outing, he starts to have more rhythm to that cutter to go along with that devastating forkball and fastball. So hopefully it is a step in the right direction, but he needs to continue to build on that.
Yeah, you saw that for sure. And when he has that pitch, and I think it was Jack Harris that asked him, I mean, what are they even calling it? A cutter, gyro, slider, whatever it may be. Just the fact is it takes a lot of pressure off that splitter, off that fastball, the ability to steal some strikes, and it just makes life easier for him. What do you think that does for the Arsenal, though, Fabian? And do you expect this progress to be linear? I mean, there's going to be some setbacks, of course, but I think it says a lot about kind of where he's at, just to have the confidence, just to definitely go all in with it in his first start of the season.
Yeah, I think it's the only pitch he could really consistently land for strikes, which is big part of it as well. Like that was his pitch that he kind of went to get back into counts, just sort of knowing that that the fastball, for all of its velocity, it's not necessarily doesn't have the same hop on it that some other elite fastballs do. The split, he didn't have a great feel for that forkball pretty much all outing. And so like that was the pitch he was going to get back into counts. I think just even having that, I think at least helps. It just gives him another option. I think the fact that it's maybe is shorter version of like the slider what he threw last year, which is like he's not going to have as much horizontal or vertical movement on it, but it is short enough that he can sort of differentiate from the fastball, make it look almost like the forkball sometimes, maybe if you're sort of trying to read the spin on it. But it's also sort of that go between, almost in a little bit of a way, like sort of what you saw out of Trey Savage's slider last year, where it's not a special slider, but it's an in between for Savage's fastball and his splitter. I think just having a third level to sort of think about, third level, different velocity band to think about, just sort of puts a different idea in an opposing hitter's mind. So I think, sort of to Jerry's point, that's why that third pitch is considered so important for him. It's because it's a pitch you can throw for strikes, and it's something that's just an extra thing to think about.
And with that splitter, it's so unpredictable. It just puts a lot of pressure on that fastball, and he kind of feels like he has to be too fine, too perfect with it. And it's also another tunneling option, too, with those pitches. So, hey, I mean, you got to give a lot of credit. I mean, everything he's gone through. Jerry, you talk about it. I heard you on Sportsnet LA on the post-game shows. Just the fact that he did have that experience through the postseason. He knows that he can have success as a reliever, as a closer at this level. It's just taking those steps and proving that he can do it as a starter. So it feels like he knows it's in there. It's just going through the process of becoming a big league pitcher in not the easiest environment, a team with a lot of pressure, and again, of all the hype surrounding him. Feels like there's that element to it as well.
It is. And, you know, he's been very candid. I mean, he said, listen, I haven't had much confidence. And you can see it out there on the mound, but I'm hoping now that he was able to get through that very first start, may have found something with that cutter to be in that strike zone. Now he's got a little bit of an arsenal to attack hitters. And listen, it's no secret, guys. The one thing you realize when you get to the big leagues, this is the big leagues. This is the best players in the world. No disrespect to other leagues. There are great players in other leagues, whether it's Korea, Japan, Mexico, Venezuela. But once you're here in the major leagues, all those great players are here at the big league level, all in one league. So there is no let up. Even the 30th team that's ranked in offense, they can swing the bat. These guys are tough with the bat. Roki knows that. He's starting to realize, man, this is the best. But I got to figure out if I master these pitches, because he does have elite stuff, but he has to be able to get it in the strike zone. He can be effective. What I like about Roki as well, I'm hoping he sees when he does get ahead in the count, and there was a lot of swing and miss. The reason why there was a lot of swing and miss when he was ahead in the count, because as a hitter, he's throwing 99 to 100 miles an hour with the fastball. That devastating forkball is absolutely lethal. Also, I got to worry about the cutter. That's why they're more in swing mode. That's why he's getting hitters to chase, because he's ahead in the count. No, but now, as a hitter, if he's behind the count 2-0, 3-1, I'm just going to look middle and hope I get something there. And that's why when he does throw something middle, when he's behind the count, they're hammering it. So the most important thing for Roki, understanding I got to get in the head of the count. I got to be competitive with strike one, strike two, the first two pitches in the at bat, because when I get ahead in the count, I become elite as a pitcher. So hopefully now he's got that confidence, he's got that third pitch, and can build off that start.
And Fabian, we saw kind of, you mentioned too, the fastball and just the velocity did fluctuate a little bit during spring. It fluctuated early in his time in the bigs last year. After the game, we talked to him, and hey, he said that he feels like it's getting even better. He was hitting high 90s at one point. Do you think that's a strong indication that from a health standpoint, physically, he's in a really good spot and that he's kind of overcame what he dealt with last season?
Yeah, I think it's a good thing physically. It maybe speaks to what he's still trying to work through mechanically. I think the fact that he feel like there's more in the tank is a good sign for how that shoulder's feeling. I think the fact that he's feeling as good as he does, but also it clearly maybe taking a little bit off just to try to command it, sort of is a sign of that mechanics are still something he's trying to work through. I do think the big thing for the Dodgers, though, and one of the things that Dave Roberts kind of stressed with them is like, hey, stop thinking about the mechanics and the delivery while you're out there. You just have to get outs. And I think that's one of those things that you saw him at least get closer to the zone, not talk about his delivery as much as he did during spring training, sort of just going out there and trying to compete understanding that it's still a work in progress when it comes to the mechanics and delivery. But that's something he's going to work through between starts and still just focus on being able to get outs with what he has. And what he has is still pretty good stuff, like Jerry mentioned.
Yeah, I'm just glad it kind of flips the narrative a little bit too. I mean, if he has a rough start, it's, oh, he's not here on merit. It should be this guy, it should be that guy. They're playing favorites, but definitely a major step in the right. I wouldn't call it a major step, but definitely a step in the right direction that he can have someone to build on, and there's a little momentum there and something to feel good about. All right, guys, have some fun with some buy or sell. So the first buy or sell, buying Tanner Scott, getting back to being an elite reliever. Yes, it's an incredibly small sample size. It is just 3 games, but 2 1/3 innings. It's giving him just 1 hit, no runs, 3 strikeouts. We see more of that Tanner Scott that we saw with the Marlins and Padres, where he can live out of the zone and get some chase. Fabian, are you buying that Tanner Scott getting back to being an elite reliever?
I'm buying that how he's going about it. I think what he's doing is sort of going back, like you mentioned, to what made him so effective. Understanding that, hey, you're going to get ahead in the count. That's good. But you have to be able to expand once you get there, once you get to 2 strikes. And I think last year what we saw too often was that he get to 0-2, 1-2, and he would either be trying to be too perfect in the zone or leave a pitch out over. And it's just too many hittable pitches with 2 strikes. And opposing hitters took advantage of it. I think what you're seeing now, at least through these first 3 outings, is, hey, once he gets to 2 strikes, he's going to expand the zone, make you chase, understand that his stuff is good enough that you're going to swing at it anyways, and at least put it in positions where it's not going to hurt him. I think you're starting to see that. I think you're seeing a little bit better feel for the slider than what we saw last year. So, yeah, for a reliever, super small sample size, but I do think you're seeing Tanner Scott in a better position to succeed this year, and he's making the most of it so far.
And it just felt more like the Padres version. I mean, you mentioned that at bat against Thomas in his second outing where he gets ahead in the count and then he finishes him off with that fastball up and out of the zone, and he's not afraid to do that. It feels, Jerry, just from a moxie, a confidence standpoint, he just has a different presence this year to start the season.
Yeah, and listen, if you really look at his career, last year was an anomaly. You know, sometimes it's just not going to be there. And I'm sure when he went back and looked at the video, and Fabian just touched on it, a lot of these at-bats, he was sitting 0-1 or 0-2, 1-2. He was ahead of these hitters. I think sometimes that's the hardest part, is getting ahead. He's getting ahead, and then sometimes he would leave that slider middle of the plate or leave that fastball that he wanted up above the belt high, and guys were hammering it. So I think he's realized, man, I was getting ahead. I may have been trying too hard. And listen, when you're on a new team, got a big contract, yeah, it's probably a natural inclination to try hard. You know, and I think he tried a little bit too hard. He took a step back this offseason and said, yeah, let's get back to what made me successful. I was doing everything I needed to do to get to 1-2, 0-2. Now I just need to be able to finish these hitters off with the pitch. I don't have to be so perfect, but just make sure I pitch and make my pitches when I need to. So I think he's going to have a really good year, and understanding, listen, I got that dude behind me, Diaz, that closer. I can go back to being what I need to be, where I was with the Padres and with the Marlins, and being that stud setup guy.
Yeah, and he talked a lot about this at the start of the season, Fabian, just that he was living too much in the zone last season. He had to get back to the pitcher that he was, and he had a career-low walk rate, but also had really one of his worst statistical seasons. And is that a point of emphasis that you think was addressed in the offseason early on, and just kind of getting everyone on the same page with Mark Pryor and Connor McGinnis and the brain trust of the Dodgers' development? I mean, how much do you think a point of emphasis that was, which is, hey, we're going to get back to the attack plan that worked when you were elite the 2 seasons before you came to LA?
It was a point of emphasis last year, like in the middle of the season. It's one of those things, though, it's difficult to do in the middle of the season when you're in it, especially, I imagine, like Jerry mentioned, all the pressure that sort of comes with being the 9th inning guy, the new contract. You really want to do well. You're trying to do perfect. You're trying to sort of do everything. They were trying to stress with him then, even that he was in the zone too much. And he was even saying, yeah, I'm in the zone too much. But it's one thing to know it, say it. It's another thing to go out and do it. I think having an off-season sort of reset, sort of work on some things mechanically, revamp the slider a little bit, get some confidence out of that. That confidence is has fueled him so far in terms of having the freedom to maybe feel like you can do that. And also some of it's also, he's just executing better right now. Obviously, it's just 3 outings, but through 3 outings, he's just executing better than he did this time last year.
And Jerry, as someone who's played this game and know what it feels like to play in front of crowds and the crowd's reaction, I remember talking to Kenley a couple years ago, and it really bothered him that he was booed at Dodger Stadium, and it really stuck with him. And we saw the relationship with Tanner Scott and the fans, and just not being fully embraced. But I always look at Joe Kelly, like Joe Kelly's first year here. People were like, "Oh, it's a bad signing, and it didn't work out." And also, there's murals of Joe Kelly. How big of a factor do you think that is, if at all, just his relationship and just the fan base just embracing him? Because I think there's a lot of potential. The walkout song "Mother" by Danzig, I mean, he's got like an edge to him that I think really plays up as an elite reliever. I mean, how much big a factor that is just fans being on board and just kind of creating that relationship?
Well, listen, first of all, Dodger fans are incredible, second to none. They're passionate fans. They want to see you succeed. But as a player, if you get booed, listen, we know we're not playing well. They understand it. That comes with the territory. Fans don't want to boo you. They do not want to boo you. They want to see you succeed. They want to see their team succeed. So as a player, when you've been booed, you never take it personal. At least you should. You should never take it personal, because your job is to succeed, help the team win, whether you're a position player or whether you're a pitcher. So could it have affected him? Sure, maybe a little bit, but he didn't perform the way he would have loved to, and he has to understand that. But he also understands, as an athlete, I go out there and do my job and perform and be the pitcher that I was, a couple of years ago, and really since he started at the big league level. If I do that, there's going to be plenty of cheers. So he didn't take it personal. He took a step back. I'm going to get back to doing what I want to do. I'm going to start executing my pitches. He's off to a great start, and he's realized when I do execute, I get outs. So that's the main thing. Dodger fans are incredible, man. They're passionate, and that's what you want to have. I'd rather have fans boo me and it is packed in that stadium than have no fans at the stadium and don't say a word and don't care. You don't want that as an athlete. You want the loudest cheers when you succeed, and occasionally when, you know what, players boo themselves before the fans do. Trust me, we're with ourselves 24/7. I know as a player, when I'm not playing well, trust me, I've been booed. I remember I was booed at Wrigley Field. Bro, I was like, yeah, I booed me too. I've been booing myself before you guys started booing me. Trust me, I got to get it right. Players understand that, man. They understand this is the big leagues. You got to perform.
You rather have fans in the stands booing than not. While the Marlins feel attacked right now. I'm just saying. But Fabian,
I saw talking. Aren't the Marlins in first place right now?
They are 4-1, but hey, 6,000 fans. Get out there. That's a nice ballpark, man. I actually really like that ballpark. You get the Bobblehead Museum. I like it. But Fabian, I saw you talking to Alex Freeland a little bit yesterday as he was coming off the field, and you look at him so far this season: 2 hits, but 333, 270 OPS plus. Of course, having some fun early on here. But buying or selling Alex Freeland as maybe staying on longer, possibly because of his performance and what that could lead to.
I think hold and wait. I think it's still really early with him. I think with pitchers, maybe it's a little early, like easier to make quick adjustments and quick assessments just because they're in control of the at-bats. They're in control of everything. I think with Freeland, I do think that he is buying that he's past, obviously, what spring training was for him, and he's a better version of himself than he was last year. And I think that part of that comes from confidence from the failure last year, understanding, hey, I'm a better player than what he was last year, that he's also gotten better than he was last year. I think there's also confidence in how he's feeling at the plate right now. I think he's feeling good from the left side. They made an adjustment just before opening day where he said it is the most extreme change he's ever made in his life with his swing, which is interesting to think about because I know the Dodgers made a huge adjustment with his leg kick in the minors, but they basically adjusted his hands, took them away from his body from when he's sort of standing at the box, and it's worked for him so far. Obviously, he had the really good first start with the homer and the double, went hitless yesterday, but I think he's feeling better at the plate than he did this spring.
Yeah, I mean, a lot more success against righties and lefties, and it'll be interesting to see if the switchability of that swing there. But Jerry, it does feel like he just kind of looks and feels like a big leaguer. I mean, just the relays, the way he carries himself, just the early slug there. I mean, a double and a home run. You got to like what you see early on from Alex Freeland, a guy heading into the camp, probably didn't think that he was going to be on that opening day roster, just kind of making the most of his opportunity so far.
Absolutely. Listen, from day one, we saw last year, he's a really good defender, whether it's at shortstop, third, or second base. He's got a really good range, especially on fly balls behind him. He's as really good as I've seen, and being so confident going behind him and making plays in the outfield. Tremendous range. I love the fact that he made the adjustment. We call it, as a hitter, freeing up your hands. Sometimes you guys get their hands to the shoulder, which nothing wrong with that. But when they're getting ready to swing, you got to free them up to be able to fire. He's already preset his hands, really more relaxed, and he's allowed himself to stay back and use his hands naturally. So I love that he has that preset, making his hands are out in front of him a little, behind him, but away from his body to be a little more freer so he can deliver those hands and deliver that A to B type of swing. I really like his swing. That home run he hit was just a product of a good swing. He had backspin on that baseball, and he was able to drive the baseball. And he had a pretty good bat pass last night as well. I love that the ball he hit a rope to first base. But the most important thing, the at-bat qualities are better. And he did have good at-bats. He was drawing a lot of walks in spring training, but I love the fact that he's squaring a lot more baseballs now, and he's confident at the plate. I think he's going to have a pretty good year.
All right, Fabian, buy or sell the Dodgers bullpen being a strength this year versus last year where they were a weakness early on the season?
Yeah, I buy that on paper, and I buy that based off what I've seen so far. This has been a group that has been a talented group, and this has been the bullpens haven't been the issues for the Dodgers in years past until last year. I think last year, maybe you can sort some of that back to the fact that they weren't able to get enough length from their starters early on in the season, that they had some pitchers go down early on in the year. So some of those guys got a little bit fatigued by the season's end. I do think that they're a lot better set up right now. Edwin Diaz, obviously, in the ninth inning, helps make things a little bit easier on guys. Tanner Scott looking better, helps things out. We'll see still what Blake Trinan looks like, but I still think that there's room for steps forward for guys like a Will Klein, who can all of a sudden could be in a leverage role. I am buying the depth and the talent of this bullpen for sure.
90 and 2/3 innings, 4 runs, a 1.83 ERA. Jerry, buying or selling the Dodgers bullpen as a strength?
I'm definitely buying. Fabian touched on it last year. I think, especially in the second half, heading in to the postseason, I think they were just tired, man. They were gassed. They were asked to log so many innings early on in the season, last season. But you got to remember, they logged a lot of stressful innings in that World Series run. So a lot of those guys were tired, taxed heading into the season last year. So these guys, I think, are more well rested. I think our starters are going to go deeper in the ball games. And when they give us 6, sometimes 7 strong innings, these guys come in, throw their inning, and be able to do their jobs and shut the opposition down. And having Edwin Diaz in the back end. Listen, last night it wasn't a save opportunity for whatever reason. Closers sometimes struggle when they get to the mound and there's no save situation. They just do. Every starter I played with or seen, they tend to struggle. But I think Edwin Diaz is going to be that lights out closer. He's going to make sure he'll shut the door in the 9th inning and allow other guys to fill the roles. These guys are healthy, and when they're healthy, they've proven they could be that dominant bullpen.
Yeah, you like the fact also did not seem that fun last night to pitch on last night
either for Diaz. Everywhere.
Yeah.
Yes, everybody.
Yeah, I was about to say. I mean, also he's such a great teammate. He was trying to get a save opportunity for Tanner Scott to build that confidence. Maybe that was a 40 chess move, but yeah, I do think that it just feels like this is a guy that he can turn the page as well as any closer as far as, hey, I'm not going to worry about traffic. I'm going to worry about the batter in front of me. And just having that on this team, I mean, what have you seen early on just from having a designated closer that they can trust, Fabian? What that means just for lengthening the bullpen?
I think it sort of lets everyone else fall into place. And obviously the Dodgers have gone by committee for closer basically since Kenley Jansen left. And there's benefits to that for sure, where you don't feel like you have to be locked into a certain guy. But I do think that there is comfort that sort of comes with not having to worry about the 9th inning. For Dave Roberts, for the bullpen, understanding where everyone else lines up from there, being able to deploy a Tanner Scott early on in the game, like they did a couple of nights ago, where they sort of saw like this was the leverage point in the game. Here's a run of lefties coming up. Go get him, Tanner. Don't have to worry about the 9th inning, even if you come back, because you have Edwin Diaz behind you. So I do think there's a lot of faith there in it. And obviously, we've seen in the past in New York, especially in the postseason, Like Edwin Diaz is open to pitching out of the ninth inning if needed, if that's the leverage spot in the game, and those important spots later on in the season. But I think for right now, during the regular season especially, it helps other guys fall into place. They know sort of the situations that they're going to use him. They also know that it frees up other guys to be used in spots that maximize them. You don't feel like you have to save a guy for the ninth inning because you feel like that's going to be the best matchup later on in the game.
Absolutely. And it's not like it's on the field, but I mean, a bonus Edwin Diaz buy or sell the Timmy Trumpet narco living up to the hype. I had Tatiana Tate on the show earlier today, and she was saying that, hey, Edwin Diaz and being a part of that, it was electric. It wasn't easy to do just one shot, but she said she would do cartwheels down 1000 Vince Scully Avenue to be back and do it again. Feels like they're going to have her back. Feels like it was electric to me. I thought it was awesome. I mean, I think the whole moment, I think last night was the best one, though, because he was doing it through the rain. I think that was a fun. But Fabian, buy or sell, I know you've seen it before, but just as a Dodger, that moment and just kind of the fan response, that felt like fans are staying to the ninth inning more than they ever have.
Yeah, I saw it before in New York when Timmy Trumpet himself was in the building. Like that was really cool. So, yeah. But I do think that it's something cool to in Dodger Stadium. Obviously, understanding like they kind of understand what he means, what the Timmy Trumpet celebration sort of is, or the entrance music really is. I do think also yesterday they had the ribbon boards in place, so that is more of a full on experience of what you're expecting to sort of see every time he comes in.
Yeah, and you see Chico doing it with the fake trumpet. I mean, Jerry, like for a slog of a 162 game regular season, you're playing 6-7 months a year. Stuff like this energizes a big league club, all right?
Absolutely. I mean, you love the excitement of knowing you have a Diaz with the Timmy trumpets. I love the flashing of the lights, the music, the sound system at Dodger Stadium really is second to none. The fans are hyped up, and I love that you mentioned the guys in the bullpen with their trumpets. I saw that last night. I just started busting out laughing. It's just good to see. We call it the show for a reason. It's the show, man. You want to see that. You want fans to be entertained in a variety of different ways. The Dodgers do a tremendous job with their ballpark. Fans, it's a tremendous fan experience, and it's just fitting now. You have a guy like Diaz in the ninth to close out a game in style. I love seeing it.
We have to get some for you and Hard Tongue and Nomar to have in the studio when he comes out. I would love to see that. All right, how about this, guys? Buy or sell. Mookie Betts made some really nice plays last night at shortstop. Buy or sell Mookie Betts being an early leader for the Gold Glove. Of course, 5 games in. It's hilarious to say that. But buy or sell Mookie Betts being a legitimate bona fide Gold Glove candidate. Fabian?
I mean, he was last year. He was Gold Glove finalist last year. And it's hard to really argue otherwise. I think you're sort of seeing he's got the full feel for the game. Obviously, we've always kind of known his feel and knowledge of the sport is up there. Like he just sees things, understands it. Now he sort of knows what he's doing out at shortstop in a way that he isn't thinking about playing shortstop. He's just playing. And you're sort of seeing that. You're seeing some freedom out there. I loved the sequence that he had yesterday. Obviously, when Angel Martinez fouled the ball off his foot, Mookie Betts was the first person to spot it. They were able to overturn that, turn it into a foul ball. And then that same at bat, Martinez hits the ball into the hole that Betts makes a great running play on. I think you're seeing a lot of confidence. I think you're seeing him just playing freely at shortstop. And I think that's a good combination for him.
All right, Jerry, buy or sell Mookie Betts, Gold Glove shortstop.
Buying it. I mean, what I've just seen, guys, I played everywhere, okay, but Mookie Betts, watching him be the best right fielder in my eyes I've ever seen defensively, and now making the move second base, then shortstop, and him just becoming elite. We saw it the second half of last year. This guy worked, I think, in my opinion, too hard, and it kind of took a little bit from his offense a little bit, but now he's at a point where he's just making all the plays naturally. That ball off of Vesia, that had some English on it to go along with the wet rain, able to get it, make the play without a problem. The ball to his left, diving, popping up, firing a strike to Freddie Freeman. Then the ball to his right, that Martinez play, able to understand, now as an infielder, as a shortstop, as soon as the ball's hit, you know exactly the throw you're going to make. I'm going to do a one-hop throw to Freddie Freeman. I'm going to give him a nice long hop, especially with the rain. It's going to skip to him perfectly. He knew that the very first step he made to his right. Not trying to do too much. Probably 2 years ago, maybe tries to sail it, and the ball goes in the dugout. He knew right away, make it, pick it, and throw one hop to Freddie Freeman. He made that look effortlessly. Guys, that's not easy, especially in those conditions. Yes, I'm buying it. Freddie Freeman over there helping Mookie Betts, and then Mookie Betts being that elite shortstop. Bro, I'm buying Mookie being in that Gold Glove race and possibly winning it this year.
Yeah, we saw Darren Erstad 2002 win the outfield, then won at first base, Polanco, second base, third base. But to go right field and shortstop, that'd be an incredible accomplishment. I like, too, it feels like he's just constantly learning. I mean, Miguel Rojas goes 98 feet to make that play, and then he's talking to Mookie about it, constantly about it. It just feels like it's just a great relationship. It's beautiful to see. All right, guys, how about this? Buy or sell. We talked about Andy Paz being an all-star, but early on, buy or sell Andy Paz looking like an all-star. Fabian?
I'd say it's hard to really argue. He looks like a better hitter than he was last year, and even the first half last year, sort of like Jerry's talking about in the past, he looked like an all-star. So I do think the talent's obviously there. I think there's a lot of confidence within the organization that he's primed for another step forward. And I think we've seen this opening series, especially compared to how he started out last year, where that first road trip in D.C., the defense was a big issue. The offense was struggling, base running gaffes. He looked like a guy who looked lost this time last year. Now he looks very much more sure of himself. He's building off of last year, building up and moving past last postseason, and you're seeing a lot better version of Andy Paez right now.
Jerry?
I'm buying it. Guys, I'm looking at his jumps. After the pregame yesterday, heading to where we, have dinner and watch the game. I'm walking on the concourse. Quan hits the ball right center. And as soon as he hit it, I looked right at center field. And I saw Paez immediately make an incredible jump right and called off Tucker. Tough play. He made that no problem. The ball last night was hit hard. Remember, the wind was an issue, the rain. Tough play. He was still able to make an adjustment. What I love about that play, he was able to come back and make a basket catch. But I love the fact that he went immediately to the wall. He wasn't drifting. He goes immediately to the wall. Now, he did come in. I'd rather a guy come in than have to rush back. So he's learning. He's becoming a lot better defender instead of really, dare I say, elite. He's becoming that elite defender. With the bat, that last night, going the other way, picking up that first run for the Dodgers. Yes, I'm buying it. Being an all-star, he continues to get better and better. He has worked extremely hard on his craft, and it really has been fun to watch.
Yeah, if you feel the confidence growing, the maturity there. One thing I found pretty interesting they told me was that he was saying it's beneficial to bat in the bottom of the lineup because he can get that information ahead of time that he's not going to get pitched like Betts or Shohei or Freddie, but he can pick up the information and use it. And it's been interesting to see those gains. But Fabian, look at this position player side. Like 5 all-stars right out of the gate. It's going to be probably a situation where they're like, hey, we can't just put every Dodger on the all-star team. How do you think that might affect them?
Yeah, it'll be tough. And plus, there's a lot of good outfielders in the National League. And these are problems I'm sure that get sorted out in late June, early July. But I don't think anyone with the Dodgers is complaining about what they're going to get out of Andy Paez for sure.
All right, gentlemen, last one here. Kind of a little on the wilder side. Buying or selling after seeing 5 games. I know we had pretty conservative win predictions, right? But considering the bullpen looks improved, the offense we know is going to get going, the rotation's getting healthier, saw some good starts as well. Buying them, maybe going for the wins record after what you've seen early this season. Jerry, start with you.
I'm going to sell it. Honestly, listen, I don't really care. You want to win every game, of course. I think the main thing with this Dodger team is three-peating. They're focused on that, making sure they put themselves in position to do so, especially when it comes down to the second half, making sure these guys are fresh and making sure they're firing on all cylinders heading into the postseason. So whether they win 100 games, 105 games, 120 games, whatever, it's all about making sure you get those 11 wins. Win your division first, making sure you set yourself up for postseason play, get your rotation locked in, but securing 11 wins in the postseason, that's all they care about, guys. I'm telling you, whether it's 105, I don't really care. It's making sure those 11 wins are secured in the postseason.
Fabian?
Yeah, I'm still selling. This is still a veteran group. I'm sure injuries are going to come at some point. And also, sort of like Jerry talked about, like this, the Dodgers don't treat the regular season in that sort of way. They sort of treat it in a lot of ways as preparation for what you're going to see in October. They always kind of view everything with that in mind. And I don't think they're going to step on the gas. And that's what would be needed to break that record. I think we've seen even some of the most talented Dodgers teams, even the ones that maybe we're pushing for it a little bit more than this team would in 2022 that won 111 games. It's difficult to win and break that 116 record, even if you're going for it. And I don't think the Dodgers, motivation-wise, are going to push for it.
I will say this. I had a couple scouts tell me, we were talking about parity. We were talking about parity a few shows ago. Baseball has the best parity in all sports, but I would have heard from a couple of scouts that this year, a lot of people don't realize there's going to be a lot of good teams here in baseball. He goes, those teams that you thought they were going to get kicked around, they're not going to be pushed around. There's some talented, good young players. So the win total may not be there. I think there's going to be a lot of good teams. We've already seen it right off the jump. The Marlins are off to a good start. The Baltimore Orioles are going to be better. So many teams that we thought, there's going to be really good teams this year. So winning a bunch of games, I mean, it's just not going to be written in stone. There's a lot of good players out there, a lot of good teams.
Yeah, you got the balanced schedule, the Dodgers having the bullseye on their back, and as Fabian mentioned, they're not going to put their pedal to the metal through the entire season if it means doing anything to compromise their chance of having a fully healthy roster in the postseason. But I mean, it's funny. Last season they start 8-0. And then they struggled. And hey, at some point, we know that there'll be a time when no one will be saying the Dodgers are ruining baseball. And then they'll go through those cycles. It's a roller coaster of a season. The record I would want would be the 98 Yankees, though. 114 wins in the regular season. But then you get the 11 in the postseason. And you actually finish with 125 wins. But you do both, really, the most wins. So that would be ideal. But, hey, this team's ultimately going to be defined by if they three-peat or not. And no one's going to care if they win 150 games in the regular season if they don't win the title. So I agree with you both. But gentlemen, great show, great stuff as always. For Jerry, Fabian, myself, if you haven't yet, subscribe to the Dodgers Collective, give us 5 stars on the pod, write us a review, we'll read it on the show, and also tell your friends about it. So definitely be sure to spread the word about the Dodgers Collective. We'll see you guys next week on the Dodgers Collective, and until next time, go Dodgers.